So, when I think of leadership, I tend to want to break it down to the simplest form. For my personal opinion, I believe leadership is the ability to influence. Now, when it comes to influences, we all have our different influences and they make us who we are. We have the initial influence, which is our parental influence. You get a little bit older, you have the influences from your friends. Once you kind of get a little bit older, you kind of decide what you want to do, take the good and the bad from your parents as well as your friends, and that makes you who you are. And that could be a strong leader and or a weak leader. I think of an opportunity of leadership I had actually experienced as a young NCO, literally the day after I put on the rank that made me a staff sergeant. I was approached by a young airman, and we'll just call him Airman Snuffy. He was going through a situation. It was one of those life changing events, and he didn't have the slightest idea of how to handle it. Now, in a situation like that, I believe leaders have to let their people grow and make the decisions that are going to influence them. Now, he asked for some advice, he asked some tips, some guidance, and we spent about 45 minutes trying to figure out a great route for him. But I never said, do this, do that, do this. Simply, I took the time. The time allowed him to kind of voice his opinion, voice his ideologies, voice some of his concerns about some of the decisions that he was faced or forced to make. And it allowed him to say, okay, somebody through it all has my back. So he made a decision. Good and bad came from it. And it's one of those things that he made, so he had to live with it. But we fast forward to essentially 10 years after that decision was made. We're talking and he's conversing with me about a situation that he found himself in, dealing with a young airman now. The shoes have been placed on the other foot, if you will. So he was like, I was able to assist this guy, and I attribute that to how you simply took about 45 minutes of your time after a day of work to help me. So he's now been able to kind of reciprocate that and is able to affect a group of young individuals who are also in the military. And I think that's great. So he reminded me of that moment in time. And what I take from that is the leadership goes and it goes around and it comes around. The things that you do today can affect people for years to come. And you may not even know it. They may not even come back and say, thank you. I was appreciative of it because it allowed me to know that at least for a moment in time, I did something great for someone. So, leadership again, it's the ability to benefit, the ability to influence. Benefits do come as a result. It's not just from the leader to the follower, but you'll see if you're around great leaders, eventually they'll influence you and you influence them as well. Thank you.